The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow strip of water, quiet on the surface, but carrying the weight of the entire world. Every single day, hundreds of massive ships pass through this route, each one carrying something the world depends on: oil. Nearly 1/5 of all global oil flows through this single passage, which means what happens here doesn't stay here. A disruption, even for a few hours, can ripple across continents. Fuel prices rise, markets react, and economies feel the pressure. But here's what's strange. From a distance, it doesn't look like a place of power. No towering cities, no massive infrastructure, just water, land, and silence. And yet, this quiet place controls one of the most critical choke points on Earth. So the real question is, why here? Why does the world depend on such a fragile, narrow space? And what happens if that balance is ever broken? Because to understand Hormuz, you have to look deeper. You have to see what lies beneath the surface. Because the truth is, Hormuz is not just geography. It is survival. Imagine a place where the heat is so intense that midday feels like time itself has stopped. The air becomes heavy, the ground burns, and movement slows to a crawl. Water is scarce, land is dry, and every single day becomes a test of endurance. Here, survival is not guaranteed, it is earned. And yet, for thousands of years, people have chosen to live here. Generations have adapted, learning how to survive where most would fail. The rhythm of life changes here. Work begins before the sun becomes unbearable, and entire communities slow down beneath the midday heat. Even the buildings are designed for survival. Thick walls, small windows, carefully shaped to control heat and wind. Nothing exists without purpose. Every structure, every routine is part of a system built around endurance. So the question remains, what is it that keeps pulling life into such a harsh environment? On Hormuz Island, the first thing you notice is not struggle, it's color. Mountains painted in red, orange, yellow, and even violet, as if nature itself created a living canvas. From above, the land looks almost unreal. Layers of color stacked across time. Wide valleys, sharp cliffs, and hills covered in mineral-rich soil create a landscape unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. But this beauty was not created overnight. These formations took millions of years, shaped by volcanic fire, pressed by ancient seas, and carved by time itself. Every layer tells a different story. Some were formed beneath oceans, others emerged through violent geological pressure. Wind, heat, and erosion continued shaping the island over thousands of generations. And even today, the landscape is still changing. Each color, each texture, is evidence of Earth's history written into stone, of fire, of water, and of erosion. A reminder that even the harshest landscapes can hold extraordinary beauty. But life here is not easy. And yet, people do not fight the environment. They adapt to it. Life follows the rhythm of the sun. Work begins at dawn, before the heat becomes unbearable. Fishing boats leave the shore early in the morning, while the air is still cool and the sea remains calm. By midday, the streets grow quiet. The heat slows everything down. Movement becomes difficult, and entire communities pause beneath the burning sun. Then, as evening arrives, life begins to move again. Markets reopen, boats return, and conversations fill the air. Everything is timed. Everything is intentional. Homes are built with thick walls, small windows, and narrow spaces designed to trap cool air while blocking heat from outside. These structures were not designed for appearance. They were designed for survival. To guide the wind, to reduce heat, and to create comfort in an unforgiving climate. Nothing here is random. Every choice, every structure serves a purpose. Because in a place like this, efficiency is survival. And just beyond this quiet life, massive oil tankers move through the water. So large, they look like floating cities. These ships carry more than cargo. They carry energy, power, and global dependence. Every day, millions of barrels of oil pass through this narrow passage. Fuel that powers factories, airplanes, entire cities, and economies across the world. On one side, a global economy worth trillions. On the other, small coastal communities living simple lives. Fishermen watching the tides, families depending on the sea, and villages moving at a much slower pace. Two completely different worlds existing side by side. One driven by global markets, the other focused on daily survival. One moves billions of dollars. The other focuses on catching fish, repairing boats, and enduring another day beneath the heat. And yet, they share the same narrow space, a fragile connection between global power and human survival. The sea itself is just as extreme, warm, highly saline, and challenging for most marine life. In many parts of the world, ecosystems struggle to survive under these conditions. But here, life has adapted. Coral reefs continue to grow despite the heat. Fish evolve, learning to survive in waters that push life to its limits. Only the strongest systems manage to endure. But this balance is fragile, delicate, and easily broken. For thousands of years, nature maintained this system through adaptation and balance. But now, that balance is under pressure. Pollution, oil traffic, industrial activity, and rising ocean temperatures are slowly weakening the ecosystem. Coral reefs begin to fade, marine populations decline, and the damage spreads quietly beneath the surface. Because when ecosystems collapse, the effects do not remain underwater. Fishing communities suffer, food chains weaken, and entire coastal systems begin to change. And once that balance disappears, restoring it becomes far more difficult. Along the coast, there is another hidden world. Mangrove forests, growing where most life cannot. Rooted in salt water, surviving against the odds. These trees do more than exist. They adapt, filter salt, and create life beneath their roots. Under the surface, their tangled roots become shelter for countless marine species. Small fish hide there. Crabs move through the mud. Young marine life begins its journey in these protected waters. What looks like a forest is actually a living system, a foundation for marine life, a beginning of an entire food chain. And beyond these coastlines stands the Strait of Hormuz itself, a narrow passage, but one of the most important waterways on Earth. Every single day, around 1/5 of global oil passes through here. That is not just trade, that is influence, that is power. Because even a small disruption can trigger global consequences. Fuel prices rise, markets react, Governments respond, and economies across the world begin to feel the pressure. That is why the world watches this place so closely, not because of its size, but because of how much depends on it. But while global politics focus on strategy, local people focus on survival. Fishing, weather, daily life. Two realities coexisting in one place. One global, one deeply human. Every morning, boats still leave the shore. Families continue their routines. Markets open, children grow up, and life moves forward beneath the shadow of global tension. And the question remains, how long can this balance last? Because the world is changing, slowly but inevitably. Ocean temperatures rise, ecosystems weaken, pressure increases, both environmentally and politically. And places like this feel those changes first. The Strait of Hormuz is more than a route for ships, more than a line on a map. It is a reminder of how connected our world has become. A place where nature, economics, politics, and human survival all collide within a single narrow passage. So the final truth is simple. Hormuz is not just a waterway. It is a warning, a signal of how fragile our systems really are, and how quickly balance can disappear when pressure becomes too great. So the real question is, are we paying attention, or are we still only looking at the surface?